So we're not here today to just, summarize the latest AI news. We're going to get into something much more foundational. We've got our hands on a technical report that suggests the very nature of scientific research is changing, and maybe changing for good.
That's absolutely right. What we're looking at, it isn't just a powerful new tool, like a faster laptop. The article is called GPT-5 as the AI co-scientist, accelerating discovery.
Hmm.
And it argues we're seeing a genuine, a phase shift in how science is done.
A phase shift.
Yeah, AI has moved past being a calculator or a glorified search engine. It's starting to act as a real research partner.
A partner. Okay, so not just augmentation. This is active collaboration.
Exactly. The researchers are calling it the AI co-scientist.
And that's the concept we really need to unpack for you today. Our whole goal here is to understand what this partnership actually looks like. We're going to dig into 3, frankly, startling case studies to see how this model helped create genuinely new knowledge. We're talking abstract math, immunology, theoretical physics, all over the map.
And we need to find the secret sauce, right? The method of collaboration that makes it work.
Because it's definitely not about just turning the AI on and walking away.
No. But the evidence here, it suggests that for the first time, an AI is contributing novel, non-obvious insights. That's a huge leap beyond just high-speed computation.
Okay, let's start with the headline breakthrough then. The most abstract, and honestly the most surprising one. The model helped settle an open mathematical problem that had stumped people for decades.
Yeah.
Erdős Problem, #848.
Right, and this is a classic from combinatorial number theory. To give you a bit of context, these problems aren't about solving for X. They're about proving if something can even exist. They require a deep kind of intuition, especially about what mathematicians call negative space.
So what made this specific problem so hard? Why was it an open conjecture for so long?
It's all about the density of a set of numbers. Basically, if you build a set of integers following certain rules, how dense can you make it before you break the rules? The human researchers, Sani and Selk, they were stuck on the very last step, the optimization part. They had the whole framework, but the final piece of the puzzle, this one little constraint, was just invisible to them.
And the article points out something key here. They didn't ask the AI to solve it from scratch. They fed it their partial, their incomplete work.
Exactly. They were asking for a critique of what they already had.
Yeah.
And the model's contribution was what they call the outlier insight.
The outlier insight.
Yeah. It proposed this completely novel logical step.
Yeah.
It said, what if the set contained just one unexpected number, one that didn't fit the pattern when you look at it modulo 25? That single outlier would act as such a powerful constraint on all the other numbers that the dense set they were trying to build would become impossible.
Wow. That is an incredible logical leap. It's a mechanism of constraint. So instead of trying to build the set, the AI focused on the one thing that would make it impossible to build.
That's it. It was almost counterintuitive, and it's what crystallized the final argument for them.
So not brute force computation.
Not at all. It was genuinely creative reasoning. It proved the AI could be a catalyst even in, the most abstract corners of math.
Okay, so from the purity of math, let's jump to the messy reality of life sciences, the T-cell mystery.
So you have an immunologist, Daria Unitmaz, and he's dealing with unpublished, really noisy data from T-cells. These cells were treated with a common glucose inhibitor called 2DG.
And the lab was stumped.
Completely puzzled. 2DG is known to be an energy blocker. It basically starves the cell of glucose, which should slow things down. But the data showed a massive, totally inexplicable spike in inflammatory cells. The response was just way out of proportion to simple energy loss. They knew what was happening, but they had no idea why.
So they present this puzzle, this noisy data, to the AI co-scientist. What did it come up with?
It proposed a complete novel hypothesis, N-linked glycosylation interference.
Okay, break that down for us.
It reasoned that the 2DG wasn't just blocking energy inside the cell. It was physically messing with the cell's ability to create sugar coatings, these things called glycans, on the cell's surface. So it wasn't an energy problem, it was a structural problem, a signaling problem. And that was fundamentally changing how the cell behaved.
And this is where it gets really compelling, right? The predictive power.
This is the goosebumps moment, yeah. After proposing the mechanism, the model immediately suggested a follow-up experiment. It said, rescue the cells by feeding them mannose. That's a different sugar the cell could use to rebuild those coatings.
And the lab had already done that experiment?
They'd actually done that exact experiment, but for a totally different reason. They hadn't published it, hadn't connected the dots. The model predicted the result perfectly. It validated its own hypothesis. And then it went a step further and suggested a new application for cardiac cancer therapy based on that exact mechanism.
That's a huge step, from analyzing data to proposing new biology and then predicting an unpublished experimental result. But let's look at a case where it failed, at least at first. Theoretical physics. A physicist named Alex Lupsaska asked it to find hidden symmetries in the equations for rotating black holes, the Kerr metric.
And the Kerr metric is notoriously complex. It describes space-time that is, curved and spinning. Finding symmetries there is incredibly difficult. So the model looked at the equations and just said, no symmetries. It basically gave up. Or worse, it gave a confidently wrong answer.
And this failure is the perfect pivot point, because the key to success wasn't the AI's raw power. It was the technique the human expert used to get around that first wrong answer. Which brings us to the secret sauce.
Right, what the researchers call scaffolding. And this is maybe the most critical takeaway for anyone wanting to use these tools, because critics often look at this and say, well, the human did all the real work. Scaffolding is what defines the relationship that proves that criticism wrong.
So how do we define scaffolding? If the AI is this expert resource that lacks judgment, what is the human's role?
Scaffolding is the art of breaking a massive cognitive task into smaller, verifiable steps. The human provides the judgment, the direction, the quality control, the domain expertise. And the AI provides the raw compute, the exhaustive search of possibilities, and this memory of basically all of scientific literature.
So back to the black hole problem, how did Lupsaska use scaffolding after the model failed?
He gave it a warm-up exercise. He asked the AI to solve the exact same problem, but in flat space, which is a much simpler version of the physics. And the model nailed it instantly. Once it understood the structure of the solution in the simple case, Lupsaska gave it the complex curved space problem again. And this time, with that new intuition, it derived the hidden symmetries perfectly.
So the human acts as a kind of teacher, guiding the machine's learning right there in the session. But scaffolding isn't just about getting the right answer, it's also about speed, right? We see this in the fusion experiments.
Oh, absolutely. Inertial confinement fusion, or ICF. The goal there is to shape a tiny fuel pellet so it implodes perfectly. A physicist, Brian Spears, used the AI to write and iterate simulation code, running optimization loops to find the best parameters.
And that kind of work usually takes months, right? The team of postdocs?
6 months, typically. The AI compressed that workload into 6 hours. It delivered what's called a ridge map, a full map of the optimal settings, in less than a workday. This isn't a 10x improvement. It's a total phase change in efficiency.
And the data table in the report really hammers this home. For a literature deep search, the acceleration is something like 1,000 times. But for a mechanism hypothesis-like with the T cells, it's estimated at 10,000 times.
When you look at those numbers, it becomes really clear. The bottleneck in science isn't just compute power anymore. It's human bandwidth. Our ability to synthesize and explore and, throw out bad ideas. And this AI co-scientist just shatters that limit.
Speaking of synthesis, let's talk about this deep literature search. This sounds fundamentally different from just typing keywords into Google Scholar. The report says the unit of search shifts from keywords to concepts.
Which is so crucial. It solves this problem of knowledge getting lost or siloed. Researchers miss old papers because the jargon has changed or the paper's in another language. The AI can look past the surface words and see the underlying mathematical structure.
Do we have a specific example of that?
Yeah, a great one. A researcher named Nikita Zivotofsky had a new result in density estimation. Anyway, standard searches were coming up empty. The AI connected his work to a paper from the year 2000. Zivotofsky was using the language of statistics, but the old paper used the language of multi-objective optimization. Totally different fields, different jargon, but the AI saw that the underlying math was the same.
And this was also vital for the Erdős math problem, wasn't it?
It was. After the AI had that outlier insight, they still needed to find the best precedent in the literature. The AI found the key idea buried as a side comment between two theorems in a 1961 paper. And even more impressively, it traced the root of that idea to a critical 1959 paper written in German, translated the relevant math, and explained how it connected to the modern problem.
That's incredible. It's synthesizing collective human knowledge across decades and languages.
Exactly. And that's the leap from older models like GPT-4. The report really highlights GPT-5's ability to use negative space.
Which means what exactly?
It means it's much better at figuring out what not to do. pruning the tree of possibilities. The mathematician Timothy Gowers tested this. He gave it proof strategies he knew would fail. And the AI was able to explain why they would fail, why they lead to a contradiction down the line. That saves a human researcher weeks of wasted effort. So much of science is about abandoning dead ends faster.
And its sheer persistence is remarkable, too. There was an example with cosmic string radiation, where the model just churned for almost an hour. It tried one method, then another, Legendre polynomials, Bessel functions, and eventually it spat out a complex analytical result.
A result is worth adding that Mathematica, a world-class symbolic algebra system that scientists use every day, could not solve. That just shows the level of complexity it can handle if you scaffold it correctly.
Okay, we have to talk about the elephant in the room. Hallucinations, limitations. What are the big dangers here?
The dangers are very real. The model is trained to be persuasive, which is a problem. Now, the article does note that sometimes a hallucination can be a form of lateral thinking, a creative jumpstart for a hypothesis. But the absolute non-negotiable rule is independent verification by the human expert, because the attribution risk is severe.
And we saw that with the clique-avoiding codes example. The model produced this elegant, correct proof, which was amazing until the researchers realized it had basically just reproduced a result from a 2024 paper by Noga Alon.
Exactly. And it presented it as its own work, with no citation. That's the danger of, well, call it scientific plagiarism or false discovery. It just underscores how critical the expert in the loop is.
Yeah.
The human has to do the verification.
Which brings us back to the need for that PhD. If the AI can solve integrals better than dedicated software and find symmetries in black holes, why do you still need a world-class expert?
Because the AI amplifies expertise, it doesn't replace it. Go back to the black hole problem, a novice would have just accepted the first answer. It's impossible. Only the expert, Lupsaska, had the intuition to say, no, that can't be right. Try this simpler case first. You need the human to steer, to ask the right questions, to filter the signal from the noise.
So let's wrap this up with two practical takeaways for you listening at home. How can you actually apply this co-scientist workflow?
Okay, first, focus on simulation over speculation. Use the AI to run a kind of digital twin mental model of your problem. Think of the CRT example. If your real-world experiments are expensive and take months, use the AI to simulate which hypotheses are most likely to work. Let it prioritize your next real-world steps.
And the second one, the second key prompt.
It's the what am I missing prompt. Don't just ask it to solve your problem. That's where you get the highest risk of hallucination. Ask it to critique your setup. Something like, here's my plan. Based on everything known, what side reactions or thermodynamic barriers am I ignoring here? Use its knowledge base to find your blind spots.
This whole report just screams that we're at an inflection point. The bottleneck isn't resources or computing anymore. It's just human bandwidth, our ability to process it all.
That's the core idea. The AI co-scientist removes those limits. It compresses timelines from months to hours. So the focus shifts. It's not about how smart the AI is. It's about how well the human can manage it.
So the researchers who learn how to dance with the AI, not just command it, they're the ones who are going to define the next decade of progress.
So here's a final thought to leave you with. Given that this AI can solve integrals that dedicated systems can't, and it can find hidden knowledge in papers from 1959 written in German, what entire domain of knowledge, something we thought was settled or maybe just too obscure to even look at, is now suddenly ready for a